Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy. Well, hello there, lovely friends. Welcome back to the House of Joy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth. So happy to be with you today. We are talking about something that may be the most important thing ever. We are talking about emotional resilience today, and I'm going to give you a definition. But first of all, I want to tell you that emotional resilience is non-negotiable. And I'm going to talk about 10 transformative ways, actually very practical ways that it has changed my life and how to start building it now. So that's going to be a lot to cover. And these solo episodes that I do are usually usually a little quicker. So we're going to dive right in because I'm going to use lots of examples in this podcast because I think, especially when you're talking about something like these topics that I often teach, I think that the real magic of them is like, what does this look like in your life on a random Tuesday? What does this look like in your life on a weekend when everybody's tired? What does this tool look like in your life on a daily basis? So first, let's give a quick definition of emotional resilience. It really means to understand and regulate and allow your emotions while you intentionally maintain the mindset that you want to maintain. Usually that's some kind of positive outlook or positive mindset. And where you use adversity as an opportunity for growth rather than always feeling defeated. So resilient people who are emotionally resilient, meaning they're really emotionally regulated, aren't immune to difficulty. They just develop the inner resources to navigate these hardships so that they can stay grounded in their values and what really matters to them and maintain this kind of hopeful perspective on the future. So sometimes I like to think that my ability to create this for myself, I actually learned how to practice in childhood because it was kind of a necessity. And I have gotten over the years really good at this. One of the amazing women who works for me tells me often that I'm the most emotionally regulated person she's ever met. And I'm like, you know what? I take that as a compliment because I definitely have worked at it. And I definitely, you guys, by the way, am still very human and still have to really be intentional about this and practice it. But I want to give you some really concrete, insanely practical ways that this shows up in my life that really feels like a breakthrough. I mean, a lot of times when it's happening, I kind of am like, oh, yeah, that's just my life. But then when other people experience my life or my circumstances, or even sometimes when I'm just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful that I have that skill now because I kind of now a little bit take it for granted. And I know that this is not how most people are probably experiencing their lives. And I will tell you that the reason why this matters so much to me is because how you respond and show up to your life, to your spouse, to your kids, to your grandbabies, to the people at work, to the people on social media, like how you show up has a ripple effect, has a lasting effect. And you being emotionally regulated and emotionally resilient in a key moment in your life can be such a powerful demonstration to the people in your life, to your kids, to your spouse, to whoever, that it makes this like lasting impression on them. Like they learn how to emotionally regulate just by being around you. And I think this is just a skill that most of us honestly don't learn very much about. And so a lot of us get into just reactive modes and then we don't like how we showed up. We don't like how we reacted in a certain situation. And so emotional regulation and really creating this resilience for ourselves is really powerful. And obviously, we can all think of times when we didn't do this. So I don't want you to use this episode as a way to be mean to yourself or beat yourself up. I want you to use this episode as a way to inspire yourself for what you do want to create and create more of that and show up more as your true self, show up more emotionally resilient and regulated today than you did yesterday. So these are going to be so practical. And I really think that, you're going to be able to take something and go, oh my gosh, I can go practice that like literally right now. Um, and these things are happening for all of us kind of all the time. So if you think about your own life, I'm sure that you will think of specific ways that you have been able to do this yourself. And for sure for all of us, ways that we can choose to do it better. So the first one is, and the main category is how you are reacting in family conversations. So we had an incident at our house last week that if you were looking on the outside, you would be like, oh, that did not go well. But here's what I realized is that we can make ourselves wrong for things that happen. And we can, and I will say that how the initial interaction went down wasn't great. But what I noticed about my little family is that we are so quick to apologize and make it right. And I think that is a way better skill than not having any conflict at all. Because really, what that teaches our family, what that teaches our kids is that this is what it's like to live in families. There's going to be conflict. Things aren't going to go well. People are going to say things that they don't mean. And what we do after that is way more important. And so what we did in the aftermath is quickly apologized, quickly made amends, quickly created safety, quickly emotionally regulated. And what happened after that, you guys, was the most amazing hour-long conversation. There was so much love and so much understanding and just so I feel like what happened in that conversation is like this is something that is going to be remembered for years to come. That when our son is in his out in his own life and he will remember that night. He will remember like, "Oh yeah, people have conflict. That's what it's like to be human." And this is how we show up to the conflict. So, like for me, on a regular Monday night, having the awareness of like, oh, none of us reacted well initially. Having that awareness, having the humility to ask for forgiveness, to apologize, to say, I'm sorry, and then staying connected through the whole interaction to create like what I feel like will be like this long lasting, beautiful effect of that initial, whatever you want to call it, overreaction, bad reaction. So that's number one. So I want you to think of a time where, when you were having a family affair, a family issue where people originally didn't react well. Don't make yourself wrong for that because it's so easy for me to go, I'm so conflict avoidant sometimes because I had a very difficult childhood that I can avoid things like that. I would, my truest nature would be to avoid that at all cost instead of to let the conflict be there and find a powerful, loving, forgiving way through it. And so, yeah, just on a random Monday night, it felt like such a transformational thing to happen. The second thing that I noticed with this is, or the second incident where this was very real to me, is that I was with my grandbabies last Friday. And because I have been doing this work to create a lot of emotional resilience, to be very emotionally regulated, I find that I have just such a bigger bandwidth for everything, just so much more patience and willingness for all different kinds of situations. I just actually got a text from a friend of mine and he sent me a picture of him with his little ones and they were running through the water. And he said, I'm practicing chill parenting like you. Shout out to you, Tanner Bell. And it made me laugh because I'm like, oh, yeah, like last Friday, I took my grandbabies out in the rain and let them splash around in the mud puddles because that physicalness of the rain coming down on you and splashing around in the puddles actually just that itself is very emotionally regulating. It's so grounding for us to be outside in all kinds of different weather. I've talked about that on the podcast before. And I was out in the rain with them. And I just know that there was a time in my life where I wouldn't have had like the bandwidth, the patience, the emotional resilience, the emotional regulation for that. And I know, you guys, that in that simple little moment, my grandbabies are going to remember that. They're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, Grammy took us out. Grammy used to take us outside in the rain." And one of the little fellas didn't even have his shoes on, and the other one didn't have his pants on. And I'm like, it's Grammy day when they don't have their shoes on or their pants on and they're outside in the rain. Now, what you have to be willing to do is, you have to be willing to clean things up and dry everybody off and kind of start over, which I think is awesome. I have learned this so much with my little buddy Tom because he loves to be out in the rain and in the mud. And I used to fight that. And now I'm like, no, that's a great way for him to emotionally regulate. And has expanded my capacity to create a lot of bandwidth, resilience in my own emotional life so that that kind of thing doesn't stress me out or, whatever, so that I can not just like tolerate that, but really, really enjoy it and see the benefit of it in their lives. And so that feels like that's something that I'm so thankful that I have cultivated because I know that they're going to remember times like that. And that's exactly what I want. Like, I want to have that bandwidth and that love and that patience and that, oh, it just felt like she had all day. It felt like, all the fun we wanted to have, she was there for it. And so that felt really important. And that's not something I don't think that most people in their life feel like they have enough of or as much as maybe they want of it. And just want you to know that that kind of thing, you can cultivate that by practicing it, by deciding on purpose to do it, and then practice doing it. Like, oh, and it's funny because now when I'm planning to go to their house, I'm usually like, oh, what fun game can I take? What activity do we want to do today? It's like I'm planning for that. Instead of like the way we might be, which would be like, let me just get through the day, right? And so this kind of thing, it's just so practical. And these like emotional skills, like increasing your emotional intelligence, really being present for your emotions, creating this bandwidth and resilience within yourself, it's just not a given. Just because you age doesn't mean you're going to do it. You have to really intentionally want it and intentionally create it. So ask yourself, where do I want to create more of that? The third area that I can think of is because people are always asking us about relationship with your 20 somethings. So I can think of like specific um interactions with my older kids where my ability to regulate myself and to take care of myself emotionally led to so much more connection with them than if I was depending on them emotionally, than if I was grading myself by every choice they made or whatever. So a lot of times these what could be, tense moments or what could, be conflict there, if we just stay in our lane and go, look, I'm the one responsible for my emotional life. That's not my kids' job, especially not my adult kids' job. I mean, none of our kids is that their job. This is my job. And when I do my job well, I have so much bandwidth for when they're not regulated, when they're not feeling well. I can become like a place for them to regulate, for them to, find like experience this bandwidth that maybe they want to learn how to create for themselves. So I think of that when I think of the relationships that I have with my older kids. The fourth thing is I notice for myself in my own life that this has allowed me to really expand my capacity for what I can do and create without creating a lot of stress and overwhelm. So I remember a time in my life when I was very productive. I was holding a lot of things in my plate, but I felt very overwhelmed by it. And what I have been practicing, especially over the last 2 years, especially in my business, is how can I 10x my business, but also 10x my peace and my happiness and my joy and my marriage and my relationships with my kids and the amount of fun that I have and my adventure. So, how can I increase my capacity, but without bringing with it all of the overwhelm? And I will tell you, this feels like such a huge win to me. I love my business now. It doesn't mean that there aren't hard days and that I don't have to make hard decisions and that there's times when it's like, oh, now I have to look at the numbers, or whatever. Like it definitely is just a business sometimes that has things that feel hard, but I don't let that overtake me and I don't go into stress and overwhelm. And I know it's because I have learned to cultivate this emotional resilience. I've practiced it on purpose. I create these thoughts on purpose that help me really live this out. And so, even today, before I met with my team, I just took a few minutes and kind of centered myself and thought about what kind of CEO do I want to be? How do I want to lead myself so that I lead my team well? And just that little bit of a few minutes before I meet with them has me showing up with a different kind of energy. Number 5 would be the way I have learned to deal with other people's emotional roller coasters. So, you guys, Mel Robbins has a new book out called Let Them. People are going to people, as my friend Angela says. So, how are you going to choose to respond when people do what they do, which is often have an emotional outburst, blame you for something? They're on an emotional roller coaster. They keep inviting you on. And the thing of it is, we so often say yes. We're like, oh, yes, I do want to ride this emotional roller coaster with you, random person on Facebook who keeps making me angry. And I just noticed that I don't do that anymore. I don't ride other people's emotional roller coasters or their waves. Like I have learned so well how to stay in my lane and keep my peace. And not just that, actually still love that person. Like still be able to create some curiosity for them, some compassion for them. So one of the things that I notice in my coaching program, Life Mentoring School, is when people get in the program, they love it. They experience a lot of these things that we're talking about. And then it dawns on them, oh, I am just now noticing how negative and how emotionally dysregulated the whole world is. And it can be a little unsettling because you're like, no, everybody needs to learn these tools so everybody can get regulated. And then we start judging people that they're not more regulated. And so that's like the first level of doing this kind of work. The second level is where you go, oh, yeah, okay. Lots of other people don't have these tools and they get to be on all their emotional roller coasters, and I don't have to get on and I can stay in my peace and I can still love them and appreciate them. I can remember what it's like to feel like I'm at the mercy of everything and everybody and every emotion. I can remember that with compassion, and I don't need everybody else to get regulated for me to stay regulated. So that has been a huge one for me. Number 6, this is really a good one too, is that I feel like in so many instances, I have really learned how to let go of perfection and comparison, um, people pleasing, like all of those things where we look at other people and we go, oh, well, now I'm depressed because of this, or now I feel inadequate because of this. And that's just a sign that you are letting other people dictate your emotions, that you are letting them drive the car of your emotions, and really learning to let go of that. Like, oh, I don't have to compare myself. I don't have to I don't have to have everyone like me. This has really helped me too in being in business, because a lot of the things that we do in business, we have to do because we have to protect the profit. We want to keep the business going for a long time. So we have to make decisions that sometimes are not pleasant, that, you know, other people have to live with, we have to live with. And you have to be willing to let go of that sort of, I want everybody to like me, people pleasing kind of mentality. And although I still feel it, like I still feel the disappointment, I just allow myself to feel it, and I can stand in that without trying to contort myself like maybe I once would have done in order, to please someone else or do what I thought other people wanted me to do. I can just stand firm and like, no, it's okay for me to feel a little bit of disappointment. It's okay for me to feel this rejection right now. It's okay for me to feel whatever. And just sort of letting go of that sort of trap of, I need everyone's approval. I need everybody to like me so that I can really learn this resilience piece that has helped me so, so much. Number 7, this is going to step on a few toes, is releasing old resentments. I cannot tell you, y'all, how long I lived with old resentments for so long. And they are so gone from me now that I can't even remember feeling that way. And I lived with them for like 45 years. So what I know is that you can heal from this. You can let this go. Whoever you're holding hostage, however you're making yourself the victim, maybe you were a victim. See, I was holding on to resentments because I was like, no, I actually was a victim. But the truth of the matter is, whatever happened to you happened to you. But how often are you being mean to yourself with the story, making yourself relive the story? You're the one hurting yourself with the story. So how can we just let those go? And I know that sounds easier said than done. It takes practice. It takes deciding you want to. I want to be free. Maybe you don't want to yet. And your first sentence might be, I want to be free from this resentment. And that is a beautiful place to start, because once you say that, your brain will be like, oh, we want to forgive. We want to let go. And then it won't be too long after you practice that where you can practice, no, I'm letting this go. This is so powerful how I'm able to let this go. You can practice that statement for a while until it starts to really take hold. So this is a practice that I've been doing for a long time that is so beautiful and powerful and will create so much resilience in you, because the thing of it is, all of these things, when we're not doing them, make us feel heavy. It makes us feel like we can't really run our race. We can't really run our race because we're holding on to a bunch of stuff that's not ours to carry. I realized not too long ago that I was carrying something that I had been carrying for a while, and I wouldn't even allow myself to see it, because I think if I had allowed the awareness of it, I would have had to do something that felt uncomfortable. And then when I finally was like, oh, let me let myself be aware of that, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have taken care of that a long time ago. So ask yourself, where are you holding on to things that you could let go of so that you are free in your heart and mind to actually do the things in your life you want to do? Number 8 is navigating life's transitions with resilience. So, you guys, most of you listening to this are in your midlife. You are going through crazy transitions. Some of you are in my program and you're setting goals and it feels scary. I am in the midst of creating a master coach certification right now, and it is kicking my tail because it is asking me to transition to my next level of growth. It is asking me to level up. It is asking me to look at my own life with a lot of truth, to really be able to tell the truth to myself. You have to create safety in your life. You have to be courageous in order to tell the truth to yourself. So in these transitions, when your kids are leaving, you're changing a job, you notice that your relationship is changing, you want to up level to the next level, ask yourself, am I creating the emotional resilience to do that? It takes a lot of emotional resilience to do that, you guys. And I just want you to know that on the other side of a lot of these things will change your life, because it's not like you're just doing this for one time. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this hard thing like building a brand new program called Master Coach Training. It's not just that. It's like I am becoming a different person who now is willing to look at herself and let things die off that aren't true, that aren't serving me. I'm becoming a new person, and that new person is going to have this skill for the rest of my life. So it's not just a one-time thing. It's like we talked about with sort of the family conflict. It's not just, oh, that got me through that one conflict. No, it's like I'm changing the legacy of my family because the way we deal with conflict is so nourishing and so life giving that it changes the generations that come after me. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's so powerful. And that is what is available when you do this resilience work, when you just decide, I want to create this kind of emotional bandwidth for myself. Number 9 is really, it kind of ties into what I just said, but really being willing to do this work so that it affects other generations. So I know that the work that Stevie and I have been willing to do in our own marriage, to love and forgive, to really show up for each other, to see each other through the transitions, to um, create this emotional resilience on our own so that we're not so codependent on each other. I know that that is changing the legacy of our family forever. I know that this one conversation that I had last week is changing the way our son will experience his family. Like, when I think about it like that, I'm like, I'm so willing to do the work. I'm so willing to humble myself. I'm so willing to tell the truth. I'm so willing to let go and forgive and realize that connection with each other is the goal. Number 10, and this is the last one. What I've realized is that this emotional resilience has allowed me to build daily rituals that I don't think I would have had the bandwidth for before. I don't think I realized the importance of it, where I'm building rituals that bring me joy daily so that I'm creating space for joy, so that I am giving space to not just what is happening, but how it's happening. Like, okay, I can just go through the motions, but can I do those things with joy and peace? Can I smile and do those things? Can I do those things and make a joke with my son? Can I do those things and truly enjoy them? And I just know that my experience of my own life is so much richer since I have committed to this. Like, I want to create a rich, fulfilling, beautiful, loving experience of life for myself and for the people who live in my world. And me committing to that has changed my own life. And I know it's changing theirs too. So I want to give you a couple of tips for how do you start building this? Like, how do you do this? Number one, I would say, is to create awareness. Now, this will take courage because once you're willing to see all the ways you're not doing this, ask me how I know, you'll want to be mean to yourself. You should do better. You're such a bad mom. You're such a whatever. Don't allow yourself to do that because if you do that, your brain will block the awareness because your brain's like, I'm not letting her be aware of that. She's mean to us. So you got to create awareness, but you got to do it with compassion. Like, oh, of course, of course, I reacted in a way I didn't want to. It was a rough day. And, I want to be able to work on things, and get more sleep and create more bandwidth for myself. But I have compassion for how I did show up. And then as you create this awareness, you can track the things that trigger you. What was it about that one thing that set you off? What was it about what he said that really got you? It's usually not what people say, it's what we make it mean. And so creating awareness and really tracking where these emotional reactions come from can give you just so much leverage for changing this. The other thing is so simple, but just breathing through it. So when you do feel like, oh, I'm having an emotional reaction, just take a little time out for yourself. Just give yourself a little space. This is often what all of us need. This is what little kids need. This is what big kids need. This is often what spouses need. Like, if we just gave each other a little space between these reactions and let ourselves breathe through it, kind of calm down, then we can readjust and show up the way we want to. And the last thing that I'll say is to really create some kind of joyful practice that you do every day. Oh, the way I make dinner, I'm going to do it in a certain way. The way I do the dishes, the way I plan my day, the way I interact with my spouse in the morning, I'm going to do it intentionally so that it becomes this sort of reservoir for joy. Um, The other thing that I want to let you know, you guys, is that February inside of Life Mentoring School is our emotions month. This whole month is all about creating emotional resilience. And the teachings are so insanely good, so practical, dare I say life-changing. If you want more of these 10 things in your life and you want more control over how you respond, how you are regulating yourself emotionally, you need to come and join us. I know some of you, listen, I know what it's like. You've listened to the podcast forever. You've followed me on Instagram forever. I'm telling you right now, give yourself this 1 month. Give yourself the gift of February inside my program. Come inside, go all in, listen to the teachings, come to coaching. We also have these little small group breakouts. Go to one of those. It really could impact your life forever. It could change the legacy of how you are emotionally available and resilient in your life and how the impact of that is played out over the years. It's really that important and it's changed my life that much. So, I want to let you know how to do that because we have a $500 code. If you want to join with a yearly membership, you go to edwadsworthcoaching.com/join and you can use the code. Once you click on the join with the yearly membership, you can use the code LMS500 off. So LMS 500 off, OFF. And that will get you a $500 discount for the yearly membership. And then you can come join us. You guys, this month is going to be insane. I can't wait for you to get in there if you've never tried it before. Otherwise, if this is not the time for you, I totally get that. And I'm just glad that we can give you some examples today of like really what it looks like on a daily basis to do this work and how much of a domino effect it has in all areas of your life. Okay, I love you so much. Thank you for listening to the podcast today. Thank you for all your comments and reviews. We love you and appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.